Um,
Yeah.
to turn on the recorder. Okay. The time is now 9:32 a.m. I am going to call the continued meeting of the Venetian Community Development District to order. Today is Monday, August 30th, 2021. First item on the agenda is the call to order / roll call. Those supervisors that are present are Rich Bracco, Steve Kleinglass, and Richard McCafferty. On behalf of District Management is myself, Belinda Blandon. District Council Andy Cohen is present. District Engineer Rick Schoppaker is present. General Manager of the River Club Denise Payton is present. Field Manager Keith Livermore is present. And we do have Roy Deary from Vesta present. And I'm sorry, Roy, can you announce the names of those that are with you?
Rudy Saratan, please.
Thank you. We also have representatives from LMP present as well. Before moving forward with our agenda, we ask that everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
If I could ask everybody to just remain standing for a minute. 3 weeks ago, we accepted with a great deal of regret a resignation from Carl Chorba, who had been a board member since last November when he was elected. Carl was a regular attendee prior to becoming a board member. He was a regular attendee at our CDD meetings, often had contributions, suggestions for us that were all well taken and well thought out. As a member, he gave his all. Carl died on Friday after a courageous battle with a terrible disease. And on behalf of this board, I want to extend our deepest sympathies to the Chorba family, to Carol, his wife of more than 48 years, Carl Jr., who many of us know as well, and the rest of the Chorba family. Carl will be greatly missed, and I'll say, rest in peace, my friend.
Amen.
Thank you all.
Amen.
So moving forward, supervisors, we're going to move forward with the public comment portion of the agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, we will limit public comments to 3 minutes per person. Is Debbie here, Jill, or you're going to read on her behalf?
No, I'm going to read your statement.
Okay, go ahead, Jill.
Thanks. Oh, thank you very much. Well, that's true. Her better half is here. Thanks, Carl. Yeah, so I'm reading this on behalf of Debbie Carricky. So it says, hello all. Sadly, I will not be able to attend Monday's meeting, and I'm sure each of you are aware of how personally important the community landscape topic is to me. As there's almost $100,000 difference between the two bids, I'm suggesting that you ask for a third bid and that the landscape committee give clear direction on what work is being requested. As you remember, the community was extremely heated about the initial front entry work, and now a year later, all are very pleased with how open and welcoming the appearance is. I'm asking you please to follow suit with the remainder of Veneto and the roundabout. Less and open is better, as well as less expensive. I also believe we have a very few homeowners who are involved in what happens in our community until after the fact. This project needs to be done correctly, so there's no after the fact. Please get a third bid and remember less is better. We're a very landscape mature community with pretty vistas. Please don't overspend or overcrowd. Thanks. That's from Debbie. I think, Belinda, I mentioned to you, at first I want to say, Rich, thank you very much. I think you know there are several of us in the room here who were very close to Carl.
Yes.
And so I wanted to use my 3 minutes, or probably a little bit less, because otherwise I'll blubber like an idiot. But I wanted to talk to all of you and to, for the record, about my good friend and former CDD supervisor, Carl Chorba. Last Friday morning, August 27th, Carl Wayne Chorba passed away at home after battling cancer. He was a good man, a dear friend, and had one heck of a sense of humor. Carl had grace, compassion, and humility. Carl loved a good debate and had the courage of conviction. You could have an argument with him, lose the argument, and still feel good. And Carl loved beer. Carl and I met over a disagreement on an issue raised at a CDD board meeting way back in 2018. Carl being Carl, he caught up with me after the meeting to explain his position. His explanation was logical and kind, but firm. The result for me was an immediate forehead-slapping moment. He changed my mind on the spot. We became friends and remained friends ever since. The circle of friends grew and came to include his wife, Carol, and their son, Carl Thomas, whom many residents know well from his multi-mile walks around the Venetian. When Carl talked about his run for the CDD board, of course he wanted to bring his business skills and experience to the position. But there was another reason he wanted to run. You could say it was likely the more important reason. Carl said, "I take the measure of a community by how they treat my son. Venetian is a great place for us to live." Carl loved our community and he wanted to contribute what he could because of what it meant for his family. We're all of us the poorer that Carl is not with us longer, but the privilege was ours to have known him and called him our friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Very nice.
Thank you, Joe. There being no further speakers at this time, we're going to close out public comment and move forward with our agenda. The next item on the agenda is the district engineer staff report. Rick?
First thing is the pickleball court, the update. We have the public workshop next meeting, which is September the 13th, and just want to make sure we got that topic on the agenda. The ad was run in the newspaper on the 25th, and we also sent out the mailings to anybody that lived within 250 feet of the parcel that the pickleball courts are located on, which is this entire the parcel. So it's not just 250 foot from the courts, but it's the parcel that it's located on. That's this city requirement. And I understand that Belinda's got at least one, the one phone call, the email, three now. So anyway, we just need to be ready for that. I did not know, and Mr. Booker was going to be here, exactly if there was going to be somebody else to tag team with me on that, or did you just want me to present it? So that's something we need to figure out between now and then.
Okay. How many residents were got a letter? Do you know the number? Ballpark.
I'm thinking about 80 or so.
Okay.
So it would go down Bella Vista and Portofino, correct?
Yeah, it stretched about back in here some, and then the condos up there, which each condo is like 8. So.
Right.
So.
Before you move on, how do we want to handle the correspondence that's coming in? I mean, I'm replying to the messages, thanking the homeowners and forwarding the messages to the board. But is there someone in particular, possibly maybe on the committee, that can reach out to these homeowners to just listen to some of their concerns? The concern I've heard already from 2 of the homeowners is that they're not going to be here for the September meeting.
I've only gotten, you forwarded 2 to me. You say there were 3?
I got the 3rd one this morning.
Okay.
So I'll be sending that one over. And there was a request if the meeting could be held via Zoom because of the pickleball issue, if we could hold a Zoom meeting as well so people could dial in.
Well, I always respond to every email that comes in. So I have no problem responding to the 3 residents so that they know that their message has been received.
Okay.
And reminding them that the meeting is on such and such a day. I have no problem doing that, and I'll respond to them individually, not as a group. You'll forward that 3rd one to me.
I will.
Okay, so I'll do that.
What about the consideration of holding the the meeting via Zoom for this particular issue. I mean, we'll have to hold the whole meeting via Zoom, but to give consideration to those who have concerns, who are traveling and cannot be here for the meeting.
Can we do that?
You can't, you're not required to, but you can.
What's the cost?
The Zoom cost? Nothing. We'll just add it on to the advertisement for the meeting.
Would we add that to the ad, or would we just respond to those individuals?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Would we add that to the,
We can add it to the ad, or we can just post it on the website as well.
We have time to place additional ad
We do,
with the Zoom information.
we do. Or we can e-blast it, letting everybody know the Zoom instructions to dial into the meeting, which is a lot easier than the ad.
Why wouldn't we allow it to be on Zoom?
Yeah, I'm fine with doing it on Zoom. It's an open meeting. It's, we can't be more transparent than having it as a Zoom meeting, giving everybody that has a thought the opportunity to express it.
Right. It
Rick,
might lengthen the day, but-
the comments, the ones that I've seen are all about the noise impact. And I'm assuming we don't believe there will be a noise impact given the buffers and what's gonna happen out there.
well, I mean, we're taking precautions with both that thing we're gonna hang on the fence, that sound barrier and the vegetation. So we're doing two things to help out that.
And is there more sound from the pickleball than a regular tennis ball?
No, when we did our study and we had this sound device, there's more decibels coming out of the tennis when they hit the tennis ball than they do the pickleball. Now, the frequency is something that, the pickleball is a lot more hits than the tennis, but the decibels on the pickleball are less than the tennis. And especially nowadays, most of the pickleball board, the rackets are the composite, so they're even better for the sound than just the wood that they came out with.
And just one last question. Is it true that the existing tennis courts are closer to those homes than the pickleball courts would be? At least the back court.
Oh,
Yeah,
definitely.
okay.
I could verify that. I know that one unit right across, I think you're correct with that, but I'll verify that.
Thank you.
I think the important thing is that, as we had discussed a meeting or two ago, when the suggestion was, let's consider this area up here, that we carry through with the sound abatement as much as we can. We carry through with the vegetation, the same plan that we were going to do under the power lines to mitigate sound there, we're going to implement here as well. People need to know that.
Right, and that's be part of the presentation too.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Rick, wasn't there gonna be some sort of combination of something having to do with the shed, the way you combining your public hearing or something? Did that not come to fruition?
No, that will be. Now, as part of the public hearing when we add the storage shed back here, that has to go before the city as well. That is a PUD amendment. So what I was doing is the plan that I'm putting together is going to show both that shed and that there. So we're going to do both at the same time with the city. So the plan that I'm going to have for this meeting is also going to show both of those. So I was going to mention both of those the items just so we covered it in
So I
the
assume
public hearing.
it won't be, maybe I'm wrong, but as controversial, but people have an opportunity to comment on the shed as well.
Right, and there's no sound with that. I mean, it's just a storage.
Rick, does it make sense to add the tiki hut to the package?
We don't have to do that as far as the city requirement for the PUD.
Okay.
This area was zoned to have that kind of amenity. It was not pickleball was never specified.
Gotcha.
Racket sports was, so, you know, you could almost push to argue, but they said with what's we've gone through so far, they
Sure.
said, let's just make it and let's just add that, so.
So the next step will be the planning board and then the city council, or directly to the city council?
Well, the next step is this public workshop.
Right.
And then right after that, we're going to submit for the city and it'd be the planning commission. And then they'll get to look at that and then we'll go right, you know, following that up with the city council.
Do you think, and I'm sort of asking the question of you and the board, since, you know, I don't have involvement per se because of our conflict with the city, think it would be beneficial to have your special counsel present at this meeting? Would she be able to give any benefit?
Rich and I had talked about that, and I think based on what we're going to hear from the public workshop here would dictate if we need special counsel at the city. Or unless you feel
Well,
strongly.
I'm conflicted out, but just something to think about whether you wanted her in on the ground floor or not.
I don't know if it's necessary that Patty be here for the public hearing. Possibly at the planning commission or the city council meeting, but I don't see it necessary for the 13th.
Not my decision.
Okay. Next item that I had, there was a City of Venice stormwater compliance requirement. We have filled out the letter. We sent it in. The city did acknowledge receipt. So that's all been taken care of. Last meeting, we talked about the trench grate out on the tennis, the court in front of the bleachers. We went through, we put together some plans, and so I've got a bid package ready to go out. We did put together the quantities, and I did the engineers, the estimate, and just let you know that it's probably going to come in close to $7,000. So I just wanted to let people know that.
Okay.
So, one of the things the City of Venice had requested more public records requests for the hydraulic, the diesel. So I had to go through and put together volumes of stuff. They wanted all my emails. I had to go through 14,000 or something.
I was
like
happy
that.
to pass that on to you.
So anyway, that's all been forwarded back then. And then after the meeting, I got a call from Keith. We have a couple sidewalks throughout here that I'm going to go look at, and then I'll get with the vendor to clean them up. And that's all I had, unless anybody's got anything else for me.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Rick.
Oh, I was trying to look at the cost. The original, I was trying to look back through. The dog park, we had a cost estimate of $65,000. But then when we were adding the pickleball down there, we were doing dual use of the parking area.
Right.
So that full $65,000 would have been not just for the dog park, because we had probably at least half of that would have been associated with the parking lot bringing that down. So I think you're probably close that the dog park may have only been about $20,000.
20,000. Okay, all right.
That's just,
That's just a number for us to have. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisors, I didn't disconnect the line. Ernest hasn't called in, but he did tell Keith that he expects to call in within the next 5 minutes, hopefully.
Okay.
So I'll leave the line open in the event he does call in.
should I
Okay.
stay around for 5 minutes then?
I don't know if that's necessary.
So the next item on the agenda is item number 4A, which is a presentation by Ryan Solers of Stewart Washmith Solers. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ryan Solers. I'm with
Closer.
Stewart Washmith Solers Landscape Architecture. We put together the conceptual package for the Veneto Boulevard landscape improvements as well as the roundabout. And I have a full set of plans here for reference. I don't know if the board would like me to put those up to, speak specifically on those, but my goal is just to kind of discuss the overall goals of the design. So everybody on the board and anybody in attendance understands kind of what the design intent is. I think Debbie would be pleased with what the design intent is based on her letter. We have really simplified the shrub planting coming down along Veneto, and really when we were down doing our site investigation, really evaluating the existing views that we have, as well as any other, the existing plant material, the golf course, the ponds. We have a lot of view opportunity in the area, and also the opportunity to be able to minimize maintenance costs, minimize mulch costs, trimming, and just create a more effective design as you come along Veneto all the way down to the River Club. So overall, what the goal is, the way that the landscape sits now, or is being torn out as we speak, it's really just kind of a hodgepodge of shrubs and plant material that do require a lot of trimming, which to me, I'm trying to get away from that, with the having a much softer appearance, utilizing ground covers, plant material that are much more simple, and eliminating a lot of these plant beds that are blocking major views to pond areas or the golf course, that are just kind of ancillary shrub beds that, design wise don't really necessarily need to be there. So, our square footages, we're coming down in square feet based on what is existing now. I put together preliminary cost opinions for the work that's done in this concept based off of quantities of trees and palms as well as shrub areas. So in particular, as far as the goals, we're achieving these by simplifying, by opening up the views, reducing costs, reducing maintenance costs, and reducing the amount of shrubs that have to be taken care of. We do have, depending on what the overall costs are and the budget of what is allotted for this project for this year, we have thoughts to be able to minimize the budget from where it is now. We can potentially make some changes or modifications based on the preliminary cost opinion to be able to reduce cost, and have some thoughts for that. So overall, that's a brief summary of what we're doing. We're trying to highlight focal points like intersections, like so where along Benito where golf cart crossings are, those areas would receive landscaping. We would have a really native type plant palette that will do really well maintenance wise along Benito and really tie in with the existing landscape that's here, as well as tying into some of the improvements that have been done, for example, along in front of the Venetian, in front of the River Club, where the roundabout is, utilizing a similar plant palette, but simplifying it, simplifying the design, giving the design intent of really making a purposeful design as you're driving down the boulevard. So with that, I'll open it up for questions or any comments.
I noticed that, Ryan, in your proposal, there is, of course, there's a significant, do you see the LMP proposal? There's a significant difference there, but one
I
of
have
the
not
things.
seen the LMP
Okay.
proposal.
I think if I added it up correctly, I have 163 trees or something close to that number
Okay.
in here. The maintenance of these trees, the irrigation of these trees, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, the irrigation will need to be run to the trees for them to be established, but a lot of the trees that we're showing, cabbage palms, bald cypress along some pond banks, some blooming trees. The idea is here again to simplify, tie everything together, utilize common trees that are coming throughout. Installing trees that, for example, with cabbage palms are our state tree of Florida. So they're really pretty hardy once they get established to where the irrigation can be removed off of them once they are established. They will need irrigation to get established though, so I don't want to, guide you in the wrong way there. They will need it, but, as plant material, live oaks or, any of those types of materials, the native materials, as they get established, that the requirement for water and even, fertilization for some of those can be reduced.
Now, you mentioned bald cypress. They don't lose, they're not deciduous trees, are they?
They do.
They do.
They do.
So they're gonna be kind of ugly in there.
They are, and some people love those trees. Some people do not like them because of that fact. So that, I wound up, just kind of utilizing those along pond banks, just as a little bit of interest, with the amount of live oaks that there are there. I'm adding some cassia trees for bloom, as you come down along the boulevard. But the bald cypress are on my list of material that we can potentially value engineer. Due to the, do we need to have them? No. Our conceptual layout is our first pass, not really knowing, the overall, intent of the board. So, there's 27 of those that are in the cost estimate. So
Yeah, I had that same question.
yeah, so there would be a savings of almost $11,000, with removing those.
Now, your prices are just estimates on what these things
Correct.
cost, because
Yep.
you're not an installer, you're an architect.
Correct. Yeah, I'm a landscape architect, and
Right.
these figures are based off of, prior projects that we've been involved in.
Right.
We do for everybody's knowledge, we do a lot of work, specific work like this. One of our major clients is Neal Communities.
Right.
So, we're involved with, designing, the clubhouses, the common areas, the hardscape, the landscape, irrigation, lighting, for a majority of Neal's projects in the area, including, like you were mentioning, the amenities, pickleball courts, we do the design and layout of a lot of that stuff. So we have a lot of experience in the preliminary, or our OPC, opinion of probable cost. That, those numbers are come off of projects that are recent. So
How many phases, because certainly cost is going to be an issue that we're going to be banging around here.
sure.
How many phases do you envision this would take? We don't have to do it all at once.
Right. To me, I mean, and just looking at this and designing it, I see, 2 phases. I see the, all of Anito, and then potentially the roundabout as a separate phase. I did some preliminary calculations, and on the roundabout area, if you were to do the roundabout as a separate phase, you're looking probably 50 grand. So, our overall cost opinion for the entire project was around 220. And, so savings for that, and making some other, potential changes, removing some trees here and there, could get that cost down, based on whatever the board, has allotted for, their landscape for the year.
Okay.
I had a similar question about the ball cypress. I wondered, in fact, what they look like in the winter. In your plan for the roundabout, you have 13 new trees. You have the existing majoral palms and then 13 new trees.
Correct.
I don't know, but it looks to me like that's kind of overkill in that area. I have had comments from people say that now when they drive in, they can actually see the River Club through the roundabout where they couldn't see it before with all the bushes that were there.
Yeah.
To me, 13 trees in that area really seems like a major, almost like a mini forest. Is that truly necessary?
To me, and you'll have varying opinions on this. To me, and looking at the roundabout there, that roundabout is so big that if you don't provide, some interest in trees, it looks like it's kind of a wasteland. The medjool out there are really nice. Could you eliminate all those trees in there? Sure. That is a possibility. What I have, but what I'm doing with those trees, I have a combination of foxtail palms as well as ligustrum trees. The ligustrum trees are, the main focal point coming in the boulevard and the medians right here that we're looking at. So the idea was to tie that all together with foxtail palms, have more of the medjools. The other thing, about the medjools is they're humongous. What I'm doing with the trees is trying to bring down the scale,
Okay.
Bring down the scale to the, pedestrian vehicular scale to where, those clusters of trees, in my opinion, are not overkill because of the size of the island. In the center of the island, I'm showing a live oak tree,
Right.
To where that live oak would grow up, and then you'd have the ligustrums and the foxtail palms.
The live oak wasn't on your list of plants, by the way.
It's in the cost estimate.
No, it wasn't.
I think it is.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I couldn't find it.
Well, it's on the, it's on the plan.
Yes, it's written on the plan, but the cost isn't on your, what do you call it, the OPC list?
I've got that as number 7 on here.
Boom, 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 boom. I can't read it without.
Okay.
Number 7 on my list is a foxtail palm.
Okay. I've got it. I have it shown here. I can send you this.
So maybe Keith could, Keith,
The file.
can we bother you?
I saw it someplace because I was curious about the size of a live oak that you could get in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was specifying a specimen. It's 10 inch.
How many items on your list there? 12?
I have 16. There's 13 for the common area and
What
roundabout.
I'm looking at says Benito Boulevard, Common Area, and Roundabout, and there are 12 items.
Okay. I'll get you this, or get this one to Keith.
Ryan, I'm also very concerned about the irrigation. Recently, a year or two ago, the golf course had to put in, WCI, the previous owners, had to put in several hundred trees on the golf course.
Okay.
They spent almost 2 months, and I'm sure Richie saw that, putting in irrigation prior to planting the trees.
Mhm.
So I'm very concerned if we put in all these trees, that we're going to need to do new irrigation, significant irrigation that isn't in your plan. And I understand that,
You're right.
but that could shoot this whole budget way out of whack.
It would need to be evaluated. I mean, whatever investment, that the board makes in improving Benito Boulevard, irrigation has to be considered.
Yeah.
So, depending on, the condition of the existing system and if there's availability for,
Thank you, Keith.
if there's volume that is available in each one of the zones to be able to accommodate adding, bubblers to these trees and, some low volume zones to where the planting is going. It's just going to kind of depend on what the evaluation of the existing system is, and, maybe Keith and LMP can speak to that. I'm not familiar with how that is, but it's obviously a concern.
Right. Something I think we need to really be aware of. The other thing I had sent you a note about is mulch. You have a significant amount of money in here for mulch, but we already have another mulch in the budget in a different place.
Sure.
For the boulevard. So
Sure.
we could probably take that out. Also, you had in there compost. I think it was $27,000 worth of compost.
Yes.
Looking at the beds as they are, is that really going to be necessary? That might be another area where we can, get this down to a manageable amount.
Here again, let me speak to those two items. The command compost, we use it on all of our projects. It's essentially a topsoil. And, when it's installed as a lift, it's a 3-inch lift into the plant bed areas. And then when the plant material gets planted, it, mixes all, a bunch of good soil with a bunch of, typical Florida soil. So it really, it gives plant material a jump start into, just a really healthy, soil environment. Is it absolutely, imperative and necessary? No, it isn't. What was your first question?
Mulch.
Okay, so as far as the mulch goes, typically it just depends on, your maintenance contract with LMP or wherever else you have this.
We farm that out.
So whoever has that contract, it just depends on, how that's budgeted. Some maintenance contracts would call for just a top dress of, existing plant bed area. With us, and typically if you figure, if that top dress is maybe 1 inch, we're calling for 3 inches, which is 3 times that. So depending on what your, how the contract reads with
Keith,
whoever's
you aware
doing.
what our mulch contract, how deep, what's the depth?
I don't, I'll find out.
It's about $62,000 though.
Yeah.
If I remember right.
So it's a significant single budget item just for mulch.
Right. So I mean,
To me, it looked like it was a duplication in what you presented and what we already do.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and I understand that, and it's a great question. It would just be, between you and your, provider to say, hey, we have all these new plant beds.
Well, actually, we'll have fewer plant beds, won't we?
Right. The plant beds that we're talking about that need to receive mulch, whether that, to me, it kind of makes sense to be able to, whoever the landscape contractor is installing all those plants in those new bed areas, that they do that mulch, whether that figure can come out of, the typical, we'll call it maintenance mulch contract.
Right.
Is probably the way that I would recommend that to be done. If not, I mean, they could potentially hire the whole thing and just be dependent upon, what's in their contract for that yearly mulch cycle.
Yeah, without knowing what we do mulch-wise, you included it in here, so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm not saying.
What Rick is saying is probably so. Those areas were destined to get mulch anyway.
Right.
So that's another possible area where
Yeah,
we could.
it's one of those
pull out.
opportunities.
We'll still spend money on mulch. It would just be in a different place.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It's potential. It's a good question, and it's a potential opportunity for savings for sure.
And the other thing that comes to my mind, and again, if we put in all these trees in a hurricane, an area that gets hurricanes or major storms, are they going to last? Are they going to get knocked over? Is this really the way we want to go? We have the established live oaks, which you want to accentuate, the views that you want to accentuate. I just 160 some, trees and palms to me sounds like an awful lot of vegetation.
Mhm.
So.
it's a major boulevard and it's a long distance. So, to me, if I was to begin to remove trees from what I have shown, it would be the bald cypress.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, that would be, number one really on the value engineering list for me.
Okay.
Speaking to, hurricanes and it's an act of God, in any type of, landscape contract or landscape maintenance, companies, contract. Now, as far as the materials that we have shown, I mean, we have cabbage palms. Cabbage palms compared to live oaks are going to be fantastic for hurricane prevention. Cabbage palms are the state tree of Florida. Essentially what happens with those when a hurricane comes in, the fronds on the top may whip off, but there's no drag. It's just a palm trunk, and so it doesn't catch a lot of wind. Now, your live oaks, those, big, beautiful canopies create sails, and, they catch a lot of wind, and what'll happen, in particular, if you have areas with bad soils or you have overly wet areas where they can't root really well, those live oaks will wind up, blowing over because they just, can't take that. Really, your most susceptible of all of the tree material that we have shown in the concept would be the cassia trees. The cassia trees, they're a blooming tree. They're they're a smaller secondary specimen type tree used for interest. But then again, the cassias that we have in there are, the quantity is minimal, so.
And we had asked you for color, so.
Right,
Those are the ones with the yellow flowers.
yes, correct.
What was
Yes,
the
sir.
requirement for the mulch?
With it, it's a 3-inch depth.
That's our requirement in the contract in the scope.
Right.
So that's actually part of
I'm sorry,
the mulch.
guys,
It is a 3-inch requirement.
it's the same?
3-inch every year?
Yep.
Oh, that's good.
I have a question.
Sure.
First, thanks for all this work.
Steve,
Absolutely.
just a little louder, please.
So as you go down Benito now, you see all the beds are torn up and you see the vistas.
Yes, sir.
When the project is done, what are we gonna see? What's it gonna look like? Just explain it a little bit.
Well, I mean, to me, there's a lot of beauty and simplicity. And when you have these, really natural areas that Venetian Golf and River Club has, to me, it's, design-wise, it's not really appropriate to see a bunch of hedged plant
Right.
material. And what happens a lot, in speaking on the maintenance company's behalf, what happens a lot is, the plant material and that is in the contract, the clients really want to get the best bang for their buck and they want a really low, cost of their maintenance. So, those are figured, people don't want to pay for hand pruning to make it, plant material, really natural. And it's much faster to be able to utilize, either a battery or gas powered hedge trimmers and to be able to trim everything. So really the intent as you go, along Benito, along the back is just to really embrace the native type feel with accents of color. So, and those accents of color would be, potentially some groupings underneath the oak trees, simple plant beds. Yep, as far as what are in your plant palette there that is put together. Having color at areas that are, focal interests, utilizing, native type trees for the maintenance and the ease of maintenance for those. Rolling grass areas, a lot of the established grass areas around the golf course, there's beauty in those open views and it should be embraced. So in a lot of these areas, by the pond areas, simplifying, there's a lot of there's a bunch of shrub clutter out there.
Right, I agree.
As there is now. So, cleaning that up, utilizing a lot of, really nice turf areas, open turf areas, and then really making the shrub and the ground cover planting purposeful.
Okay.
Is the intent.
Okay, so will there be a rolling array of color as the seasons come and go?
As far as that, there would be, the plant material that's in the plant palette, it would tie throughout, all along Veneto.
On both
So-
sides, on both sides?
On both sides, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and as far as, we always, on a lot of our projects, we have, folks that come down in, that are seasonal and they want to have, the color of that time. We do consider that, but, what is more of a primary consideration is ease of maintenance for cost, as well as, just with a lot of color, you have sensitivity to cold. So you really don't want to, have a project, with 100% color, because you're really opening yourself up to plant replacement, which has to be considered.
And if there's 30 beds out there now as you go down, how many beds get eliminated? About?
Most of the, the irregular beds that are, linear type
Right.
beds that run along, most of those get eliminated.
So those are grassed over?
Yes, would be grassed over. And then, and if you think about it, I'm really thinking, with the live oaks that are there, you have a beautiful live oak canopy.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And just, creating simple circular beds under that with, potentially one ground cover.
Yeah.
Whether that be macho fern, and the great thing about utilizing some of these ground covers, for example, macho fern. Macho fern can grow up to be 3 to 4 foot tall. And macho fern, it can be planted as a 1 gallon and it grows really large. You get a lot of bang for your buck that way. So you can, really utilize, some of the different materials in Fakahatchee grass and, just different
Well,
types of material.
you certainly see now as you drive down the open space.
Yes,
There's a marked difference, even with all the debris there.
yes.
Ryan, we did not ask you to do anything for the buffers, just so the board is clear. The buffers are those planted areas where there are monuments, entrances to the various roads.
right.
Those are called buffers. There are
Right.
6 of those.
Right.
And they are not in Ryan's plan because we did not ask him to do that. Just
Right.
in
And I
case
did see-
anybody brings that up or
Yeah.
whatever.
I did see on my way in today that some of that material.
Yeah,
is coming out.
they're removing the junipers from the buffers, but
Yeah.
there's nothing in your plan for the buffers.
Correct.
So, and that's because we didn't ask him.
Right.
So just,
Correct.
I'm happy. Thank you.
okay. Ryan, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Any
Thank you, Ryan.
questions?
Appreciate it.
We'll have to figure out where we're going from here.
Sure. Yeah. Whenever we have some direction, just, reach out, let me know, and we can kind of hone in the concept and we can get working drawings together and help you out with the bidding process to
Yeah.
where,
And board members, just, usually, like when we did the first 2 islands, the landscape committee was actively involved. The landscape committee hasn't met since April. So, and I don't know if they have a meeting scheduled for September. So, I'm afraid it's on us. Unless we want to kick the can down the road. And the question is whether, if we do that, how long do you want to leave it looking like it is going to look in the next week or 2?
Well, I'll give you my opinion, and then I'd like to hear what,
Again,
Michael.
please speak up, Steve.
We've gone ahead and pulled out everything.
Right.
And I think that was a good first
It
step.
had to be done, right.
Yeah. I'm of the opinion, I would at least like the landscape committee to see this, but we need to get going here.
Right.
I mean, we hired what we would consider an expert to help us, and I'm glad we did that. I think we've got an opportunity now to get this thing done, rather than let it linger on. That's my opinion.
yeah, just to touch on too, kind of where we go from here, and what we're able to provide, with feedback as far as, where the board would like to be with the budget, and all of that kind of information is important to how we proceed, obviously. So with that information, what we would wind up doing is taking these conceptual drawings to another level. We detail out the size of the plant material, the quantity of the plant material. And with that, we produce a similar document to this where it's a material summary, but there's no unit cost or total cost in there. So we've worked together as far as, with the preliminary OPC, the cost opinion. So we take that, we update it based on the, final design. And then we take that and we can give that to multiple different contractors.
Right.
So that way, instead of dealing with one person that's putting together the design and doing the installation, the board is able to take the documents that we're providing to be able to get apples to apples bid comparison from different contractors. So,
An RFP kind of thing?
correct.
Well, Belinda and I were just thinking the same thing at the same time. I mean, if
That's no surprise.
it's going to be over $195,000
Right, sure.
for the landscape item, then we will have to competitively bid it.
Okay, well, I think that makes a great deal of sense.
Sure.
And as far as the landscape committee is concerned, is Joe the chair? Joe, who's the chair of the?
Joe.
Joe.
Joe Belinda.
Can you contact Joe and see if, because that meeting should be,
Yeah. 3 of them are snowbirds, so they were all
okay, well,
gone.
can at least find out what this, if he has a
Of course.
scheduled meeting and
They could have a workshop.
they can have a workshop. They can have a,
Created an expert now.
Ryan, if we were, let's say we were to scale down the island, the roundabout.
Mhm.
If we got it down in the $19,000 range where we already have money in.
Right out here
Yes, the roundabout.
with you.
I mean, that money is sitting there right now this year, but it'll kind of disappear, October 1st.
well, get carried over.
Get
It
rolled.
doesn't quite
Well, it doesn't
disappear.
really carry over, does it, Belinda?
I'm sorry, I was.
That's all right.
and I keep
Oh, we caught you.
What was your question?
The $19,000 in the reserve fund, reserve money for plant replacements that we haven't spent so far.
You can use it.
Okay, we spent 24,000 some on the third island. What happens to that money November 1st
It
or
remains
October
in your
1st?
Reserve account, so it remains in your reserve account.
Okay,
So you can still use it.
so it would be available going forward. We don't
Yeah.
have to rush to spend it.
No.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so
But
money-
let me
money will
ask
be
you, a project this size, give me an estimate about how long you think to do it all. A month, 3 months? What do you think?
Well, I mean, depending on, if that's, are you talking landscape plus the irrigation work and?
Yeah, to be
and all
done,
that?
to be
I mean,
done. About.
I mean, to me, I think if it's kind of hard to say with everybody's schedules nowadays, but, I mean, to me, you could come in and realistically do it, with irrigation. The irrigation is going to be the challenge.
Right, right.
Being able to diagnose what
Right.
is what's in the ground, and figure out capacities and all that. I'd say, without, figuring in irrigation, I'd say anywhere probably between 2 weeks to a month to do
So
the landscape.
certainly in the fall months prior to the holiday season, we could be someplace.
Yeah, in our initial letter to the community, we said we would hope that the project would be done somewhere in November.
Ryan, what about availability of product? We have pictures of them, but,
Yeah, it's a real challenge with the amount of development that it's going down. And also too, back in February, there was a major cold snap that went through Texas. So Texas is actually sending semi-load or, just empty semis to Florida to procure plant material with a blank check. So it's a challenge. But it's opening up a little bit. So the nurseries are playing catch up. I was speaking with one of our landscape contractors we do a lot of work with on Friday, and some of their pricing is actually coming down, which is a good thing.
Okay.
It ebbs and flows, to be honest with you, with the growing cycles, depending on the time of year, the plant material may be a little bit, shorter and fuller, coming out of the winter, but when you're, planting in the spring, summer, it's, more lush material.
Okay.
As far as any exotic type things, I mean, really what I've specified in these concept plans are really, pretty staple type items. So shouldn't be a major issue, procuring them.
Depending upon what you do with this project, you might end up below the 195.
Oh, sure.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's,
You just said
for sure.
195,000?
195,000 is
Definitely.
the threshold.
If I have anything to say about it.
So then, as we've always talked about, you need some integrity to your process, but you wouldn't necessarily have to follow the full-blown ad or a
Right.
big RFP.
But I think we all would like to have multiple bids on this work,
Yeah, absolutely.
as we've done with anything else of this scope.
But just as a reminder, keep in mind, the RFP process is extensive. So it's not something that you will have done within a 30-day process.
Correct.
If you're gonna do, right.
But that's over the 195
If
threshold.
you exceed your threshold, yes.
And where are we now with it?
221.
221,
okay.
But We think we can take out the mulch, we think we can take out the compost, if we took out the bald
Trees.
cypress.
Yeah, I mean, there's,
But then there's
ways
this
to-
damn irrigation holding over our
Right.
head. That's really my major concern here.
Yeah. And it should be. I mean, we can, I'm confident we can, value engineer it down in scope. We have ideas to be able to do that.
Okay.
But
And that could potentially count as a separate project. I would be okay with that. I mean, the way 190 is no goods, I'll read it right to you. No contract shall be let by the board for any goods, supplies, or materials to be purchased when the amount thereof shall exceed, and it's 195.
Okay.
So we may be able to have different projects.
Okay, great. Again, Ryan, thank you very much.
Thank you. It was I feel like I got 3 credits in landscaping today. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you taking the time to come out.
excellent. No problem. Appreciate your time.
So what do we need to move
But
forward?
I guess we need to hear from LMP and then we decide where we want to go.
Okay?
Bill, do you want to speak?
No, sure. Has everyone seen the rendering?
I have.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So as you can see, yeah, perfect. So as you can see, I broke the project down in 3 phases, the roundabout, the buffers, and the boulevard.
I don't know if the audience has seen it.
There's more than that.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
You're welcome.
So sticking with, as you can see, sticking with the less is more theme that we started with up front on the first 2 islands. Basically, this is a very simple design. We have the buffers that, as you can see now, are cleaned. We're cleaning out all the junipers and philodendrons. You can kind of see what we have. We have a clean slate. Along the boulevard, you can start to see the open views that you once had. You have some very nice majestic oaks. The views are very important to this community. So basically what we are doing here is removing all the shieldings, the juniper. We are sodding in every one of those beds, creating 15, 20-foot tree rings around the oak trees. Beautiful specimen live oak trees. You're gonna have the water views. You're gonna have the golf course views along that's phase 2. Phase 1, the buffers, we are jam packing that with color. We have a variety of crotons going in there to replace the juniper, the phyllodes, and some of the native grasses. I think it's gonna be stunning, if we go this route. The 3rd phase is the roundabout. Again, less is more. Basically what we're doing there is just putting in 1 specimen palm in the center, circling that with some arboricola, like 4 or 5 rings of arboricola. So it's to scale. And then to add some color, you have 6 medjool palms on that island. We're just going to jam pack that with some dwarf bougainvillea. Yeah. So again, less is more. No irrigation modifications. Actually even have less maintenance down the road with about the 3 acres of sod going in to replace the shilling beds.
Now, with this, with your proposal, Bill, you're saying there won't need to be any irrigation modifications?
That's correct. Yeah, the way that the current system is set up, you have a set of rotors, gear-driven rotors along the sidewalk. They are basically covering everything.
Okay.
So with this rip out that's currently underway, we're making all the necessary repairs. There'll be little to nothing to do at install.
And if I can interject as well, we're actually reducing the amount of water in that lagoon because what we ripped out, we were able to tap off and don't need to reutilize.
Excellent.
So you said same amount of water anticipated?
Less water,
Pardon me?
less water along the buffers.
Same or less?
Less.
Less.
Most of your trees in those buffers are already established, and they're not gonna require the drip line that was existing there during the rip out process. So now we've cut and cap those off. Those areas are already being covered by existing heads, which should help us to establish the material. Of course, the first 30 days, we will need to up the irrigation in order to establish that material, but after that point, we'll go back to its regular run state.
You know, the Florida friendly, everything I hear about it and when people talk about it, it always seems to be very anti-sod. But is that because it's not so much the sod, it's the water to irrigate the sod?
Well, I mean,
Is
Florida
that the
friendly-
issue?
Well, Florida friendly really means water conservation. So if you are eliminating those beds and adding ornamentals, the correct Florida friendly way would be to have a separate zone for ornamentals versus St. Augustine. So with this plan, no irrigation needs to be altered. We're not using any more water than we're currently using right now. And as you know, irrigation is it's the bane of the existence of.
We're all scared to death about it,
yeah.
right? What, the crotons and stuff that you're putting in the buffers, which is additional, this plan includes the buffers, Ryan's plan did not, just so we're clear on that. Will those require more irrigation?
No, again, those are staple items, Florida friendly, deer resistant.
We'll see.
Yeah, I think there's a variety of crotons going in that are going to weave in and out of the ligustrum trees. I think it's going to give you tremendous color up and down that boulevard. Tremendous. One thing that I didn't point out is on phase 3, the Veneto project, I also re-landscaped the pump house. The pump house is just out there by itself. It's just a mess. So what I've done is created another buffer to match up across the street at Santa Maria, specking in 5 big ligustrum trees and crotons and whatnot. That's something I think was overlooked.
In the roundabout, would you replace all the sod?
No. I mean, the condition of majority of the sod is, okay. We would basically just cut out the edges, grade it, and resod it.
Bill, be advised that a lot of that pump house area, we don't own.
Right.
So we'll need to go out there to make sure that that is where you're planting that is CDD, right?
Right.
The rest, most of that in there is.
It's golf course
Well,
property.
no, right.
But we tagged it.
Okay.
The 3 of us were up there and we tagged what was coming out. So basically just filling in that same area.
What do you mean by pump house? It's in front of the pump house, in front of the sidewalk, near.
All right, well, that would be our property, but
Right.
beyond that is
We're
golf
not
course
actually
property.
doing the pump house.
So as you can see, driving up and down the boulevard, there's irrigation flags in all the beds that are
Yeah, I
coming
see
out.
it.
So if you had any questions, just have a look.
Bill, did you have the architect's plan when you worked out your proposal?
No, I was asked actually on a Wednesday to provide a proposal. So I literally went to my car, grabbed a measuring wheel. I already had a vision in mind anyway. Again, I like the way the front entrance turned out.
Mhm.
I think it's beautiful. So I stuck with that same theme. I measured out every bed that by hand on a Wednesday afternoon, 110 degrees to get the square footage. No, I think it's a good solid plan. I think it would work for the boulevard.
I appreciate your work, but I just have to say that we agreed to a landscape architect to give us some direction. And I think we should use his expertise and perhaps let Bill take a look at what he had recommended and come up with some suggestions from that. I realize there's $100,000 difference, but we've employed a landscape architect and now we're to me, it sounds like we're thinking of circumventing that a bit. That doesn't,
To be fair, I think they need a scope.
yeah,
Drawings, so that they can review it, and then if they
Yeah.
have alternative recommendations, they can provide that in their bid. But if you choose to bid this out with other vendors as well, they should all receive the same scope
Right.
and the same plan, so that they can also submit their estimates.
well, that's kind of what I'm saying, because I think Bill deserves an opportunity to see what Ryan has suggested. Ryan is not a landscaper, he's an architect. So this is what he suggested. Take a look at that, modify it where you think you could, or whatever, your suggestions, you're on the ground, you know what's here. And I'd like to hear what you have to say once you take a look at what he's proposing.
Well, it sounded to me like he's sodding in a lot of those Alex Schilling beds anyway, and then creating new ornamental beds in a different area.
Yeah, if we can as well. The palmetto palms, which he's planting, again, a lot of the natives are great. But as we can see from the Fakahatchee grass that was installed in the median, it requires a ton of maintenance in order to keep it looking good. I would say the same thing would happen with the macho ferns. Macho ferns are great cost-wise, but overall, they're going to grow very rapidly and require us to trim them on a regular basis in order for them to stay contained within that bed and to look appropriate on a regular basis.
But yeah, and not to mention, we're creating the lake views. Why plant something that's going to create the same problem down the road? If you look at, it looks fantastic right now, like you mentioned, even with the piles.
Right, yeah.
It looks fantastic. You have these beautiful live oak trees that you've never noticed before. Look at it now. You're exposing, the architecture of the community by, opening up that landscaping.
And if those live oaks get trimmed properly, it'll even look nicer.
Oh, absolutely. In a few more years, you will have a
Yeah.
canopy street, and that gives you the vintage look that
Those trees are
Venetian
beautiful.
Golf deserves.
Well, in fairness to what we've spent on a landscape architect, I think we should at least have Bill take a look at that plan. I mean, he's come up with his own.
I'll give you the plan.
Okay, and see what he has to say, because otherwise we're,
But can we, hold on a second, Keith, can we just do something uniformly across the board so that we provide a scope, not just to LMP, unless you just want a quote from LMP, to all vendors, we send it out at the same time so that everybody has a deadline to submit their proposals on a certain date.
I would think that would be the way to go.
So then we want to take the plans that the landscape architect put together and send
That's why
it,
we hired him.
right, and send it to LMP and whomever else the board might have.
It's why we hired him.
I don't think we can do that at this point.
What?
Well, the landscape architect plan is too heavy for us right now. Over $200,000. So we don't want to, if we send that plan out to everybody, we're going to get bids back on a $200,000 plan. Is that the way we want to go? We don't have $200,000 in the budget. We have maybe 140, 150.
You can also request the proposals as phased, so. if you
I'm
want-
sorry, I can't hear you.
Phase.
You can request a proposal as phased. So let's say, please provide your cost estimate for Benito. Please provide your cost estimate for the roundabouts.
Right.
Please provide your cost estimate for whatever other area, other
Well, that's-
location. And you can add a notation to the request stating, please note that there is a possibility that, well, high possibility that these 3 locations or areas will be phased, meaning not everything will be done at once.
Let me make a suggestion here, and please come back at me. We know we like some of this. We know we like some of it. You all have some feelings about some trees that don't need to be planted. I think you have some feelings about the mulch. I think there's some feelings about some other things in this. What if you, and I don't mean pointing at you, but you seem to have the most expertise about this, along with at least Joe or a semblance of that committee, go back to these folks and say, look, take this out, modify this, maybe take a look a little bit of this on your own, and how do we get the best out of this, and tell us what this cost is now so that we can move this along. I mean, I think it's a shame. We've got a semblance of an idea here and a semblance of an idea here. I happen to agree, and I was in favor of the landscape architect.
As I would.
I know it was me. So I don't want to throw him out. But I think there's a melding maybe of the best of all of this. I don't think we're that far off from listening to the conversations.
No.
And I think there's some willingness here to get this thing going.
And you have no argument for me, because I was the one who pushed for the landscape architect from day one.
So
So
let's
I'm not trying to throw him under the bus.
No,
I hear what Richie's saying, I hear what you're saying. We paid him, let's use him.
Let's use his expertise, and then, I mean, we can tweak it. We can
Right.
certainly, the committee can say, we don't like this, we like that. All of that is good, but I think we're obligated isn't the right word, but certainly we have a landscape architect. We're using this guy. Let's use him.
I have no problem doing it. I don't know about the timing, again, because the committee hasn't met for so long. I'm assuming they're all coming back, or if you're comfortable with me sitting down with Joe, I'm sure that can be Joe, Ryan, and Bill. I'd like to do that,
Well,
Okay.
Joe represents the committee, I'm
Right.
assuming. He's the chair of the committee.
Yes.
Andy, he can meet with Joe. It's a
Okay,
one-on-one.
No problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Get people on the phone. You don't know who else is here. I think Marie Thompson is here.
And they could call a special meeting of the landscape committee.
Well, right, once you start involving other committee members, you have to have a meeting.
Right.
But again, you call a meeting and we'll advertise it and, move forward if that's what you want.
And if there's seats that are open, certainly we have people with opinions about landscaping in this
Yep.
community. If there's seats that are open, we should advertise it and try to fill the seats on this committee. I think that would be important.
Okay,
Okay?
cool.
Okay.
All right, good work.
Okay, Bill, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bill, thank you very much.
Well done.
Bill, it looks like another one of those bougainvillea took a
So
dive. It's up.
9 o'clock, get back up.
Why do they keep going over? They just haven't established?
A little top heavy, and it's really only been a year.
Yeah.
I mean, as you can see from the first ones we added, the trunks are getting fatter
Yeah.
and fatter, so eventually, the problem will.
It was just sad to see it over yesterday.
Yeah, me too.
And those are all, I had asked this question a while ago. Those are all grafted, right? The canopy part is grafted on the stem?
No, it's considered a standard, just a tree form bougainvillea,
Oh, okay.
since day one.
Okay. Before we move forward with our public hearings, does anybody need a break?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, so we're gonna take a 10-minute break at 10:44 a.m. Okay. So I am going to turn on the recorder.
Belinda, can I say one last thing about our last topic?
1 second, let me just get us back on the record, okay? So it's 10:52 a.m. and we are back on the record. Go ahead, Rick.
Just for the board members, a service that the landscape architect offers is that he will, when we put this out to bid, he will evaluate and prioritize any bids that we get.
Okay.
So we didn't know that when we did the third island, but we now know that. Wanted you to know that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So moving forward, supervisors, with our agenda, the next item on the agenda is item number 4B, which is the public hearing to consider the adoption of the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. At this time, we would need a motion to open up the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please state aye.
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 The public hearing is now open. We do have item number B1, which is the presentation of the proposed final budget for fiscal year 2021-2022, which is behind tab number 3. And once we close the public hearing, we do have the consideration of resolution 2021-05, which is the annual appropriations and adopting the final budget for fiscal year 2021-2022, which is behind tab number 4. Before we move forward with the presentation of the budget, do we want to open up for public comment first?
I think we should open it up for public comment. Just an overall view. You know, we've been working on this budget from back in June. Right now, we're at $92. Is it?
87 to 92.
Yeah, 87 to 92 based on the size of your home. It's, in my opinion, it's a modest increase. We can't go up from there, but we can go down. We're in a time when everything around us is increasing. We see it as homeowners, and certainly this is just like a big house. You know, my homeowner's insurance has gone up. The same has happened here. We've had to increase salaries to get help. As you can see, every place you go, there's a sign outside, help wanted. Costs are going up. So the $87 to $92 that we currently have in the budget wasn't something that was carelessly put together. It was put together with a lot of thought. Today, we're going to sharpen the pencil and see if we can adjust that in any way. So with that said, if we have any public comment, glad to hear it.
Are there any public comments? No.
I'll make a motion then that we close public comment.
Second.
Close the public hearing.
We're going to close the public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor, please state aye.
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 The public hearing is now closed. So supervisors, based on our last review, I did not make any changes other than update the financial numbers to the general fund budget and to the general fund reserve. The total general fund budget, $1,605,479, which includes an increase of $47,915. The increase is primarily due to outside counsel legal fees, and obviously we did bump up security because of the issues with Victory. I do not recommend at this point that you reduce that security line item, given what's happening in the industry right now. We are seeing security companies coming back to renegotiate their agreements because they're having a difficult time finding qualified personnel to be able to fulfill the positions. The reserve budget total, $369,283, increase of $60,703. And that is because we increased an additional $60,000 due to the landscaping replacements.
Right.
Questions regarding the general fund budget or the general fund reserve budget? I will note, supervisors, if you've reviewed the financials, outside counsel fees are high, not just because of the hydraulics bills, but also because of the pickleball.
Yep.
I'm hoping that there can be some sort of resolution in this coming fiscal year. We'll continue to monitor the legal fees, but we have had a few extensive records request productions which have required additional reviews by outside counsel. And as I mentioned before, I was very happy. I was ecstatic to pass on the last one to Rick.
To Rick. He wasn't quite as happy.
How many emails? 11,000 emails? Is that what he said?
14,000 emails.
Okay.
I haven't had that many in my life.
Are there questions regarding the general fund?
I think we did all our work.
Okay. Denise, do you want to present the River Club budget?
Yes, I'm gonna take my mask off. The River Club Fund, we did not ask for an increase. We tried to take the monies from other categories to put them in categories that we needed. For example, salaries and wages did increase. One of the reasons is we are still doing in-house housekeeping this year. That's in there. Plus, we are trying to begin the process of getting our staff up to $15 an hour. We have 5 years to do it. We're beginning this year to start with that. And as everybody knows, salaries and wages are just going up everywhere. So there is that increase, which then again increases employee benefits. Once your wages are up, your benefits are up because they are a percentage on that. Some of the yellow highlighted on budget for 21-22 is where I had from the original plan that we had at the last meeting, where I had taken some of those monies to put into salaries and wages where there had been some changes on that. Are there any questions?
And I had called you about it. You basically balanced it out. You didn't
Yes.
ask for any more. You didn't ask for any less. It was just a balancing act.
Shifting around a little bit.
And our non-recurring expenses is extremely low compared to past years. But what that's going to end up doing is that money is going to be the shed, and the shed. It's been months and months. I don't even want to think about what they cost now. I can imagine. But we'll deal with that once and if we get approval.
Well, didn't the tennis shed end up being $50,000?
The tennis shed was because it is a,
Masonry construction.
yeah, it's a hard copy shed. It's not a portable.
Right.
So it's a stick and mortar and it has the tile roof. And I don't know if the city's gonna come to us with that.
That's
saying,
why,
we want a tile roof. We could still get a portable shed, have them just put plywood on there and then have the roof put on instead of wasting money on a metal roof or a shingle roof. But that's gonna all be contingent on what the city approves.
Denise, would you explain the employee sign-on bonus?
What we found that we are with trying to get people to sign on, people to get here, we have talked about doing bonuses. It's I think the one we did was $500, and you get after 60 days, you got, or 30 days, you got something, and then after 90 days, you got something. And we didn't want to just hand it to them and then they quit 2 weeks later. So it was sign-on bonuses. In reality, we may not have to use those because what's happened is unemployment is stopping September 3. All of a sudden, we've got people looking for jobs. And we've not had that in the past. We have advertised, nothing. And when we do get one, it's just so they can check off their unemployment saying, I talked to somebody. So we may not have to use that. If we do not, that would be money that can be used for non-recurring if we have to do that. I'm asking not to decrease my budget. It's decreased the last 2 years, and this time, this is a tight budget. It's an extremely tight budget for us. Any questions?
Well, we had gone over the numbers with you pretty well back in June and squeezed as much as we could out. So I understand what you're saying.
Any other questions for Denise?
No.
No?
I move we accept the budgets as presented.
Well,
Nope.
what we would
I
need
tried.
is a motion to approve resolution number 2021-05 which is the annual appropriations resolution and adopting the final budget for fiscal year 2021-2022.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We now have our second public hearing, which is a public hearing to consider the imposition of the maintenance and operations special assessments, adopting the assessment role, and the levy collection and enforcement of the same. At this time, we need a motion to open up the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
The public hearing is now open. Okay,
Do we have-
members of the public, at this time, we're going to take public comment on this item only. Are there any public comments? There being no public comments, we're going to close out public comment. Is there a motion to close out the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second by Rick. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
We now have the consideration of Resolution 2021-06, making a determination of benefit, imposing special assessments, providing for the collection and enforcement of the special assessment, and certifying the assessment role. This is behind tab number 5 for your review. Are there any questions regarding the resolution? If there are no questions, we'd be looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
There's a motion by Rich. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rick. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Moving forward, the next item on the agenda is item number 5A, which is the consideration of the minutes of the Board of Supervisors meeting held on July 12th, 2021. These are behind tab number 6 for your review. Are there any questions, comments, and/or changes to the minutes as presented? If there are none, we'd be looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is item number 5B, which is the consideration of the minutes of the Board of Supervisors meeting held on August 9th, 2021. These are behind tab number 7 for your review. Are there any questions, comments, and/or changes to the minutes as presented? If there are none, we'd be looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We're going to move on to staff reports. Andy, do you have anything to report?
Just one item.
And I'm not sure if Denise is going to report further on the AC or not, but at the last meeting, the board asked me to get my hands on the contract and just take a quick look at what the warranty provisions were with the Honest Air contract. And parts and labor, 1 year, compressor, 5 years, and it was entered into in November 24th or so, 2018. So we don't, unless it's a compressor issue, we're out of warranty in terms of parts and labor. Other than that, I'm glad to answer any questions the board has. Thank you.
Questions? No. Denise?
Regarding the AC, I will mention that I sent that contract to Air 360 just to let them know what it was. And they said that they had been in talks with the builder of it. They literally have to build a new compressor. I believe it is the compressor that's out. They've not gotten back to me on whether, they're in agreement with this, but it was in writing. I sent you not only the Honest Air, where it said 1 year, 5 years, but also the builders, where it was on their thing. So both of those said it. There should be no question about it. I'll let you know when I do hear from them that they are doing that without charging us for it. I did want to just bring up an issue. When we were closed, the work that we did, one of the things we did was on the tennis courts, the tennis lights. We had talked to several companies about doing the arms, and over the weekend I talked with Mr. Carlos from Ritzman, and because his quote had said poles and everything, he said, yeah, we were going to do the poles. That's not something that we had discussed prior, but right before we did the arms, the maintenance supervisor and I talked about, once those are done, the poles are gonna look really bad because now you've got a nice paint there. And we talked about doing the poles. He said there was no way he could get them done during the closure because of the time frame. We were not just painting the arms and taking them, literally sanded them down. But we were also changing them all to LED lights, which we did. So we had talked about, at a later time, renting another boom, scissor lift and getting, and doing the fixture and the poles. My only concern is without, what do you call it, sandblasting, that it could be that it won't last very long. Of course, it won't be much money, but my thought is they may only last 3, 4, 5 years.
How much is not much money?
The lift is gonna be $1,000 a week. We should be able to get it done in a week. And then just the paint supplies again and the man hours. So we're talking 2,000 to 3,000 max.
Weren't they using a chemical, not sandblasting?
They had that, what they were doing was this TSP, I believe it was called, and it's a degreaser that helps the paint stick, because if you have oils on it, your paint's not gonna stick. And then they were gonna take one of the wire brushes, because those were really bad, the flakes of paint. So they were going to take the wire brush and scrape all that off, clean it with TSP, then put the rust preventative and paint on it. And what we did is we actually went up there and took an electric brush, which was the metal, and stripped the whole thing down on the arms so that it wouldn't be just, paint over half paint.
Right.
But that's what I'm hoping to do, is maybe give it a try, see how it works. We painted this fence 3 years ago and it still is doing quite well, but the gates where they're touched are not doing well. The oils have caused all of that to peel.
Are the courts going to be closed again in September sometime?
The courts will be closed for 1 through 4, redoing the lines and bringing in the large amounts of clay. And the reason they have to be closed is they literally have to open up the fencing to get that equipment in there. It's not just man. If it was just men in there working, we would leave 4 and 5 open, but there's going to be equipment everywhere, and for the safety of the members. We're hoping it's only 3-4 days to get it done.
But you can't coordinate the 2 projects, probably.
We might be doing that,
Maybe
because
something to look at.
unless
Yeah.
we're in their way. When we do the light poles, we won't have to shut down for that. It would be, for example, this morning, I think 3 courts were used, so we do this
Okay.
court that's not being used, then we go to this one, and we could do it in the afternoon when nobody's out there,
Okay,
working around the rain. So there'll be no closures.
I think it should be done.
I think it needs to be done, and perhaps I misunderstood something. I was under the impression that the poles were going to be done. Because we were talking about that Richmond proposal, and they were, the way I read it, they were painting the whole thing.
Yeah.
So
and-
that's what my assumption was, and I know what happens when you assume,
Yeah.
but my assumption was that we were painting them top to bottom. I think that we have to proceed with that.
Oh, yeah,
Because it's, you got to, the job needs to be finished.
And we also did not get the LED lights put in the parking lot, because the LED lights we have are this big, and we didn't realize that the boxes in the parking lot have this big metal thing inside, and so it wouldn't close. So we are getting new LED lights that would fit those.
Okay.
And those, the scissor lift doesn't work. It has to have a special boom truck, I think it's called, that you do. And my maintenance guy has used one of those a couple times, but he's not comfortable with it, so we will probably hire somebody to bring
Okay.
the truck in to help us with that.
A couple of questions about a few other things. What's the story with this canopy that
We ordered,
didn't fit?
yeah, we ordered the 3 canopies. They're custom made,
Mhm.
same company we've used years and years. And when they came in, they didn't quite fit, and these frames, you could see that they had pulled apart a little bit. So we got some of those things that you use when you haul stuff, and you
Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't work either. They were still 4 inches too short, so we
Who
called the
measured?
company.
Who measured this stuff?
They have the pattern there. We didn't even say, we just said we need 3 more canopies. Like I said, they've been doing them for years.
So it was the company.
their error.
It was the
And
company that.
Yes, so this time we said, we are sending you one of our canopies so that you get it right, and they're going to remake them for us.
At no extra cost.
Right,
Okay.
no extra cost on that. And I'm serious, probably 6 hours. We tried everything, wetting it, let's try and stretch it. There's nothing, not when there's 4
All right, so that's
inches
being
here.
taken care of. They're being
It is
sent
being-
back,
yeah.
and do you have a turnaround time on this?
We're
Charlie?
supposed to be there today. I FedExed them Friday.
So they should be receiving them, yeah, with the pattern.
But no idea when you'll get, they now have to use our material to make a new pattern, and then they'll produce this product?
I talked to the guy who does it personally, who I know, and he told me he would get them out as soon as he possibly could.
Okay.
Yeah, we put a rush on it.
Okay.
And truth, with some of this weather, it's, you know, we don't want them tearing or anything with these heavy storms we're having. Hopefully they won't. We did ask them to reinforce corners because we did find tears. And they did a lot of reinforcing, which was nice for us, and they're doing that.
Okay. This tennis fence thing, our last meeting that I attended, which was, I guess it was 3 weeks ago, we were going to get some additional quotes. I think Keith had 3 companies that were talking about fencing at the end of Portofino. Anything come of that? Or do we have anything
I
going?
believe there were 4 extra companies that we called, and none of them do repair. They said it's all or none. We did finally get one to come out here,
Mhm.
and he gave us a quote, and it's pretty, I believe it was close to the Ritzman quote, was it not? Yeah, they're neck and neck. He said his quote was good for 7 days. That's how that fast this is going up, and of course, that's done now.
When you say the Richmond quote, the $26,000 or the $11,000?
No, the $26,000 one, yeah. His was in the same price range. Ritzman, I believe, was saying they were giving us, how long? I think it wasn't even 30 days. It was like 2 weeks on theirs. And this guy said, I'll give you 7 days to accept it. Otherwise, the quote will change. It changes that fast. He said it's unbelievable.
I know that, well, Roy is here. Maybe he has some familiarity with companies that can do repairs, because this seems to be, first of all, it's hanging around forever. And that's not good. And we need somebody that can do a repair. I don't know if we,
Rudy, did you give us the name of somebody? I believe, we got the name of one from Vesta.
Yeah, we did, if you recall, we did forward a vendor that we had done business with previously on our pickleball
Yeah.
courts and tennis courts. I believe it's called USA Fence, and they have 3 locations. One here in Inglewood.
Yeah.
There's one in Tampa, and another.
And he may be the one we got
That's the person we called.
that's the one we called.
Yes,
That gave it to us, yes. So we did get that one. The other ones, and they were saying it, to repair part of it and not all of it, what's gonna happen is 2 or 3 years down the road, you're gonna need the rest, and then there's a mismatch. All of them are saying, you need to repair the whole thing. It's in bad shape. So I know the quote with US Fence is not with bars all the way along the bottom. He said, with the way the fence is made now, it's a better quality fence, and the wires help if you put them in at the beginning and get them taut at the beginning, and you save a lot of money without doing the poles. They have to all be custom cut, custom put in, and that's where your prices go up.
I would just like to know where we're going with this.
Yeah.
Because right now, we're not going anyplace with it.
Yeah,
We, we had a quote with Richmond, and we had a contract, and the ball got dropped someplace. That contract never got signed. So they're hanging on to that they never signed the contract. And I don't know, where the follow-up should have been, but it's kind of disconcerting that we're still kicking this around.
I think the contract was we got it in either February or March, and it was the middle of season. And so we told Ritzman, let's make a date for this, and they wouldn't sign it until it got closer. to that date. And so, because we didn't want to shut down the tennis courts during league and in the middle of
Yeah,
season.
I remember all of that quite
Yeah.
well. But, once we had that contract, that Andy put that contract together, it was my thought that the wheels were in progress and we were going to get this thing done. I was blown away to see that to get it done now was greater than 100% over what the original
Yeah.
cost was. And it's disappointing that happened, that there wasn't some sort of follow-up in some way to, what's going on, sign this thing, we're going to have it done in June, whatever. It never happened. And now here we are almost September and still not done. So what are we going to do?
Well, I've got the two, and that was one of the things that I was gonna ask Belinda to put it on the next, which I know it's the whole workshop and stuff, to bring those two quotes to you. Those are the only two we could get. We couldn't get the third one. They're pretty close together, though they are different in how they're gonna be repairing it. We'll bring those to the board. I'll ask the one guy if he'll extend it another week. He can look at the price and say, yeah, it's the same, or add whatever he adds to it and bring it.
All right, and maybe you could spend a little bit of time with Rudy when he's here to see if there's some other thought, some other vendor, some other place to go.
Yeah.
Because this is something that needs to be attended to. I noticed in the budget that we're still doing in-house cleaning.
Mhm.
Are we going to stick with that?
I would like to, only because it's about 15,000 cheaper a year than what we had. And when we did have contracted cleaning, there were many weekends where their cleaning person called off and we were stuck with nothing. And we put in, if it ends up with one of ours calls off, they call off to me, not to the cleaning company, and I can have them come in. I've got two that are in the process of being hired, hopefully either today or tomorrow. All of their paperwork will be done. It's a bit of a process that are going to be starting. I have a weekend person who is already employed that's willing to do the weekends.
Who oversees these folks?
They're under my purview.
Can I comment on that, supervisors?
Yeah.
Denise, we want to make sure that whoever is conducting cleaning or whatever techniques are being used for cleaning, that you're adhering to the CDC COVID guidelines. Aegis has been very strict on this, and this is why many clubs, I don't want to say clubs, but many districts that own infrastructure outsource the services because they want to make sure that they have the proper cleaning protocols in place in the event that there is an issue or some sort of a medical emergency. I don't know if that's the case or not because you're using in-house staff, but we want to make sure that you do have the right protocols in place in the event a claim should arise that we have to defend.
That we're documenting.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, we can write it down, what we do. We also receive, there's a group called Club Managers Association of America. It's club managers throughout the entire country. And they asked us to send in the information of our protocol for COVID, what we do. We sent that to them along with letting them know about the Remy Halos. And Venetian received a certificate of appreciation that we're a club that's keeping to these protocols and doing the right thing. That I think they're going to put that in the newsletter.
I think Aegis's point, and this is something that they've been very strict about with us as a district management company. They've told us that we have to stick to the protocols, meaning the CDC guidelines,
Right.
especially when it comes to restrooms and any gym equipment or gym use. So I just want to be sure that those guidelines are being adhered to in the event, because we are coming up with our insurance renewal very soon. So I don't know if there's going to be a site visit or not. Last year we did have a site visit, and there was nothing mentioned, but I'm pretty sure that if they do conduct a site visit, they're going to want information on your protocols in place.
We'll make sure that we have those and that we'll have them handy. We're all managers. If they come and somebody's here, they can hand them over and see the supplies that we have and what we do.
Okay.
Was there any, I know that when we were closed, the cleaning and such was done by staff. Was there any consideration, or maybe into the future, to have a company come in and do this? A company come in and do a deep clean? Because there were some concerns that came to me about little things, obvious things, along the no cleaning done along the walls, the blinds, et cetera, et cetera. To make it a top-notch job where everything is done, and I realize we are not, the folks that were doing this are not cleaning people, but they're doing this as an extra job. Any consideration to call in, like, I don't know, if ServPro, I know they do, after fires and stuff like that, but a company like that to come in and clean this place, because we do get a lot of concerns. We get concerns about the cleanliness of the pool area, of the furniture, and that's a showplace for us. It's got to sparkle. It really, really, really has to sparkle. And I don't like the comments that come in that indicate that it wasn't up to snuff,
Didn't we have a company come do a deep clean a couple times when we had some COVID cases?
We had
Well, that's
one, all they
different.
spray something in the air, is all they do, they don't clean.
No, I'm
They
talking
came and
about,
sprayed something. We had the carpets professionally
yeah,
cleaned.
mhm.
We did that, and previously I'd had the tile professionally done, and I was extremely disappointed in it. The grout still looked grubby. We brought in a steamer, a grout and tile steamer, and steam cleaned all of the grout, mopped, steam cleaned, mopped again, steam cleaned 2 or 3 times to get it down where it needed. We also sealed. We did the sealing of the grout. I did not get the men's locker room done, but the other ones we sealed where it wouldn't get dirty quite so fast. We did not get the baseboards painted in the hall area. We repainted in here. This wasn't just necessarily cleaning. It was a lot of maintenance too. It was doing a lot of repair work that we couldn't do, like the painting you can't do on a normal day. Couldn't do the tile on a normal day, or the carpet. The power washing of the building, that's usually about, I think when we used to have that done out, it was about $5,000
Oh, for sure.
to get it done. We did not get to the tower up there because the scissor lift didn't reach. It's, again, a special lift that we have to have for the tower. Did not have time for that. We had to finish up the tile work at the pool before we could power wash. They shocked the pool, of course, the company, not us. The pool was shocked so that they could get the water up to par because of all the sand that had gone in it. We did the work at the tennis courts, and yeah, there were some things that didn't get done, and that's stuff that we'll continue to do, like painting the baseboards either this afternoon or tomorrow, because not much is going on here, and we can do that.
Well, I'm just going to suggest, and I don't know how the other supervisors feel, I'm just going to suggest that as we move forward with this, that some consideration or some investigation be done to get a company to do it. Now, we're short-staffed, or we were at least. We couldn't get enough employees. So you already start out behind the 8 ball if you don't have a full staff of people to do these general maintenance things. And that causes the list not to get completed. If we had a full staff here, maybe that wasn't the case. But to get a company that is now responsible for all of this, get a cost. I mean, what it costs to have our folks do it. We can add up the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
What would it cost to bring in a company that's going to do a top to bottom cleaning, inside, outside, all around the house kind of thing? I think that might be something worth investigating.
I can get, I won't do it now because it's a year before it's done, but we can get that quote next year.
Okay.
If you're gonna have a question.
I'm done.
Okay. Denise, were the light poles in the tennis area painted or not? I'm confused.
The arms were done.
The arms.
What you have is you have the pole,
Yeah.
and then there are these 2 arms.
Right.
Some of them just have the one.
Okay, so.
And it was the arms that had rusted through. And when we talked to Rick Shapakor, we talked about the integrity,
All right.
if that rust continues.
So the pole itself was not.
The pole itself.
No.
was not.
Okay. And are we still with the tennis court fencing? Are we to the point where we're gonna repair it or replace it all? or don't we know?
I'm gonna bring it before the facility committee, if we end up having a meeting in the summer, all these committees are
We're
canceled.
meeting, we're meeting next,
I think it is
Tuesday.
on Tuesday, and we should have a quorum, I would hope.
maybe, well, but we can still have a workshop.
Yes, we can.
We will meet next week.
Yeah, I've got facility at 2:00 on the 7th.
Yep,
And bring that up, showing them the quotes and whether or not the whole thing needs to be.
So the way we're gonna leave this is that between this meeting and our upcoming workshop, we're gonna have a recommendation that's gonna come to the board about getting this thing taken care of once and for all. All right, and we'll take that on between the three of us here.
Fine.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
The other issue is, give us a quick summary of what actually you all did last week, so that we know what went on here. And I'm not looking for a full detail, but give us a feeling for what the staff did.
We had the kitchen staff worked in the kitchen, and they removed all the equipment that they could, I would say 90% of it, took it outside, cleaned out they power washed everything, cleaned the floors, behind the machines, the vents, the equipment that went outside was stripped down, cleaned, and then brought back in and reassembled. After they did that, they also did the freezer was cleaned out, bringing out the crate or racks, cleaning those, putting them back in. Same with the refrigerator, and the reach-ins were all cleaned. New gaskets put on where needed in those.
Okay.
Then we had in the dining room here, the carpet guy did the shampooing,
That was contracted out.
contracted out the bar, the little rooms. So we did the little rooms first. Everything was in here, spread it out. Then he did this. We did all the painting of the walls where chairs hit them and stuff. So we did that. We did the trim. Then we power washed the building outside, all the spider webs and things from the top, all the lights, any replacement lights out there. We ended up deep cleaning the 2 locker rooms, the 2 restrooms, steam cleaning all the floors with grout in them. We did not do anything in the offices. We steam cleaned those. They, outside on the sidewalk, repainted all the yellow curbings and stuff. And when we were done, Eric took Mr. Shapaker out. We have some sidewalks that they've been graded down, and they just continue to rise. They need to be taken out and redone. So I'm having him show him about that. He actually painted one of them red. It was so bad. Yeah, that very dangerous on those. So he's doing that. Then of course they put clay on the courts to bring them back, because it is going to be September before the big turnover happens, and they had some low spots. They messed with the canopies, and then what they did is re-cleaned all the ones and put them back up. The light poles we did, they power washed. I'm not sure, I wasn't out there that much. And then the last big project was out here where we trimmed all the shrubbery, where you can see the pond now, and hauled that off. That ended up taking 3 huge truckloads. In fact, LMP after the first one, he had 4. After the first one, they called Keith and said, we had no idea it was this much. So, and I really appreciate that LMP hauled that off. I don't know what we would have done.
What do we do at the pool?
At the pool, we had the pavers redone. By the shower, there was an area where we had that leak, and they had to wait for that to dry out. They redid those pavers. So the pavers are all done out there. They power washed. I believe we had the inside of the pool cleaned, which we do each week anyway. The tiki bar was entirely power washed and cleaned up.
Jim?
The gym, we actually brought in a professional we tried the steam thing, and it just would not get that grime off. It's the rubber mats, and I could get it off, but one little thing like this took me 20 minutes, and I thought, yeah, no. So we brought somebody in, and they had a special buffing machine that got that off and cleaned that up. It ended up taking them 3 or 4 hours, I believe it was. 4 hours and they thought it would be a 1 or 2 hour job.
So
we did-
at one point, you had mentioned there was an estimate about what you think you saved by doing this. Is that still?
I know that on the lights, we saved anywhere from 12 to 13,000 on those. The inside cleaning, probably, I would say 5,000. Power washing is 5,000 to get that done. My thought would be about $20,000. Well, I don't know how much L&P would have charged to do that tear down out there. I don't know.
Okay.
What that is.
Thank you.
But it was a savings and, it's just something every year staff has done it. It's not something that was hired out. It's just a time to do what we can do that we can't do while we're up and running. It's always been just something to try and spend some time to get it done. Golf courses usually do the courses and their little plugs and stuff. So here it's just the building that we work with.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Denise? Keith?
Another great day in the land of opportunity. So what we have, I've given Melinda, we had some bats in the belfry, literally at the guardhouse, and that's going to be taken care of. It has happened in the past, and they didn't fill in where those there's a bunch of spaces in between the shingles of those special shingles up there, and so they're going to fill each one of those in, and so that the bats can't get back in. They're going to get at least they'll have the bats come out. You don't want to kill them, so they have a way of getting them out, and then we'll reseal and do that. And it's not a huge expense, but it is still a little bit of expense that's going on. Still working with down here at the end of
Portofino?
at Portofino. Talking with Rick, of course, it's a huge expense to get a company to come out and actually give us a line. I do have a email into the gentleman that Jerry Jasper got me hooked up with from the city to see if, we just put it up, are they gonna, balk at us or what they're gonna say? So that's still in limbo a little bit. Other than that, L&P seems to be doing, a great job tearing out. It's going quicker than I had thought it was gonna do, but it's going pretty quick. And really happy with the way that's looking. Not a great deal, just, everything just keeps flowing and going down the way it's supposed to go. So.
Fish have been cleaned out of ponds.
We do have, a fishing company came to me. I don't know if they're a fishing company, but
Harvesting company.
that's it. That's the word. They're harvesting the tilapia that's out there. They say the main pond that really needs to be done is the golf course pond, the pond that we get our water out of. He says it's just inundated. And so I told him to get with Matt. They do have a boat. They did pull it down, and I had several phone calls about a boat in the pond, and that's just the way they do it. And, get rid of those things and clean up the ponds a little bit, which is a good thing, and it doesn't cost us anything. So they're harvesting, and that'll continue for a little while. Yeah, when you go down, you see a guy floating around out of the boat and casting the net. It is kind of. I had several phone calls.
And L&P's doing our parking lot. I don't know if you saw, they tore
Yes.
out those little things and
Yeah.
put in new colorful.
Did a nice job pulling
And
out.
they're doing the irrigation right now with it, so it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's looking really very nice up the park.
Excited about that.
So, other than that, we're cooking.
Thank you.
On my end, I will announce that the next regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors will be held on Monday, September 13th, 2021, at 9:30 a.m. And just to clarify, we will hold a Zoom in addition to our
Sure.
regular meeting. Rich, you did see that I did respond to Mark Henson on the records production
Yes.
request.
Mhm.
I mentioned that I'm very happy to give that over to Rick. Other than that, I think we've completed all of the records production requests. I don't think we have anything else pending.
I don't think so.
I do expect for this meeting to be long, so everybody bring your sleeping bags. But if there are any questions before the meeting, please let me know, and we will send them. I did receive some proposals from LMP Rick. I'm not sure if you or Joe Spalina have seen these. These are for additional areas. They're gone, but these are for upgrades to some of the areas, landscaping areas that need to be upgraded. I just got these, I think it was on Thursday,
I don't know
Friday.
anything about it.
They're in the 30,000 range and above, so I'll send those over to you so that you can review them with Joe and let me know what you'd like on the agenda for consideration and what we should hold off on.
Okay.
Because I mentioned to Keith, I was confused because there's several areas.
We have talked to them about them, the sod and going out the front, which I believe we already approved. That
Yes.
hasn't been done. Any action on that? Okay.
These are new.
All right, I'll take a look at them.
Yeah,
Sure.
these are new, so I'll get those over to you.
Okay.
Can we try to,
Or send them to Keith and I can get together either way.
You have a copy. You were copying on the email.
Okay.
can we try not to fill up the agenda so much for the 13th and maybe push some things off to the 20, whatever?
We can, we can push O&M to the second meeting. We can also push the financial review if need be to the second meeting. There's some things I think we can streamline and push.
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
think-
just suggesting so that it isn't as,
Is Craig gonna have anything for
think you asked
for
for
the
the second
28th, yes.
for the second?
Yeah, that, PRAG are, the company that we have that's investigating our bond situation, wants to make a presentation on the 27th, the second meeting in September. They're gonna meet with the financial committee, before that to discuss their latest findings.
Melinda, I have a question regarding the Zoom. Is there anything that we need to do here? I couldn't remember how we used to do that.
No, what'll happen is we will send out, I'll send Keith the information with the agenda so he can send it out in the mass email. We will provide the meeting identification number. For this meeting though, I will be very strict with resident homeowners having to raise their hand instead of us. That's why we'll make
Yes.
the video.
I'm
It's
clicking
easier.
every time.
It's easier with just the video access, to do it, so we're gonna just ask that they raise their hands during the meeting. We just had a meeting a few days ago, and you would be surprised how many people kept unmuting themselves, interrupting the meeting. So, I try to mute everybody at the entry point, but homeowners, they still unmute themselves. So we're gonna put some instructions in the email so that
Good.
everybody understands that they're
You
gonna
know
be
that
muted
drove me
upon
nuts.
entry.
Previously.
Not to interrupt, not to just speak out, and the instructions on how to raise your hand, so that they know how to raise their hands.
Run a tight classroom.
Yeah. Any other questions for me? Supervisor requests or comments? Are there any supervisor requests or comments?
I don't have any.
I just want to say thank you for being flexible to push this off and to do it as a workshop today because of my situation last week. I appreciate that and certainly appreciate the good wishes that I've gotten from many people. Get your COVID shots.
The next edition of the newsletter, I know that's something that we've kind of put.
I'm working on it.
I move we adjourn.
That was fast.
Is the
Is there a
social
second?
dining committee meeting covered for the next one?
Yeah, I'm going to cover
I'll
it.
second my
I'm going to
motion.
cover it for the remainder of the year.
Okay.
Okay, there was a motion by Rick to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Meeting adjourned at 11:41 a.m.
Thank you, everybody.
This is a record for.
For a budget meeting?
For a budget.